Hello, and welcome back to a brand new, exciting episode of Video Ditch, podcast about talking about video games with people who love video games, just like me, Sam, as always, joined by Nick. And today we have a very special guest from the Starstruck Hands of Time team. We've got Max. Thank you for joining us today. Yes.
Yeah, thanks.
For the viewers and listeners at home, could you tell them a little bit about your role at the company and what it is you do?
So my name is Max, and on Starstruck I was the director, programmer, and also I was the writer and came up with the story. I mean, you say company, I mean, it's a lot less formal than that way, but yeah, I was behind most of the creative decisions in the game. I worked with two other main people were Andrew and Allanson. I think you interviewed them before, right?
Yes, very good, but deep personal friends, Andrew and I. We're always talking about this, that, and the other thing.
Well, we're thrilled to have you. Today we'll just be giving them the typical video ditch treatment, taking a look at the past, the journey that led us to Starstruck, and we'll be talking about what Starstruck is, exploring that, and then setting our sights on a little bit beyond in the future, see if there's anything on the horizon. But before we get into the discussion on the past, how are we doing today, gentlemen?
Very cold. I feel like the kid with the big snot from Wind Waker. I'm hopefully it's not showing through the camera.
No, you're all good. You're all good.
Yeah, I'm running on like a solid 8 hours of sleep, which is rare for me. So I'm feeling pretty good right now.
Very nice.
Recommended daily amount.
Yeah, within the normie lifestyle, it's great. I'm liking it.
Very good. And we're approaching the end of the year now, which is kind of nuts. It's November. And that, at this time of year, I was kind of taking stock of like what media I've consumed or I've really taken to this year. As we approach the end, were there any highlights? We can do just a brief kind of look back at if there was anything for you guys. Personally, I think without getting to games just yet, I think the only big movies I saw this year that I really stuck with me were Dune Part 2, and then what was that serial killer movie, Long Legs, and then Alien Romulus were pretty interesting for me. I like those. But what about you guys?
Media stuff, I mean, just Metaphor Refantasio. It's completely eclipsed my life. Sometimes I'm playing and I forgot I even got married. I'll just be like completely in the world. I'll be like, this is my life now. This is how I'm gonna live. And then reality hits me like a cold, hard piece of iron in the back of the head. I'm like, fuck, that's right. I'm like a normal guy.
I'm back.
Yeah.
So stuff that came out this year. I've been really into this game. I just started playing it maybe actually a few days ago. No, a week ago. Have you guys heard of this? It's called Minds Beneath Us. It's so good. It's so good. It's an indie game. It's out of Taiwan. And it's like a cyberpunk game. And when I say a cyberpunk thing, I don't know, maybe you think it's going to be like some genre, you already know what's going to happen. But no, it's actually the characters and the conversations feel very real. And I'm so into this. I'm so surprised by this. And it's not that popular in the English speaking world. Not many people know about this game, but it's really, really good.
Sam, write that down. Get that guy's contact info. Sam, get that.
I actually watched an interview with them. I don't know if I'm not sure if they speak English, but yeah, if you could try to do an interview with them.
Break down some more international barriers. Taking a look at the Steam page, kind of the immediate impressions. It does speak to me with the presentation, like narrative kind of choices being made.
Yeah, the art is like an anime art. It has nothing to do with anime. I don't know why they did that. Fortunately or unfortunately, no, it's unrelated to that. But yeah, that's what I've been into lately. I'm really impressed by this game. I'm like addicted to it, I just can't stop playing it.
And it's similarly kind of a small indie team you mentioned.
So yeah, my wife she was kind of like translating the interview for me because they were just speaking in Chinese. I didn't know what they're saying. I think it's like a team. It's like a team of 7 people, and like I was, they were showing their office and everything, and the guy was saying like, "Oh yeah, we don't know like why this guy is renting us this office, but we're getting this office for like $100 a month, and here's the mold on the walls and everything." It's kind of like I was like, man, these guys seem really
It's
cool.
real.
Yeah, very rock and
real
roll.
Artists, yeah.
Yeah, for real.
In the trenches. I mean, that's exactly the kind of thing we like to cover on the show. So thank you for bringing this to our attention.
Absolutely, yeah. I'll pick that up. I'll set aside a chunk of time in my 8-hour metaphor session to, give it its dues.
An emotional sci-fi narrative game. I love that. Okay, well, right on. Yeah, I won't bore you guys with what games I've been playing lately. Mostly trying to get through Alan Wake 2. I'm like in the finale of Alan Wake 2, so that's been really gripping for me.
Yeah, I've been wanting to play that.
I think, well, I mean, I'm not exactly sure how the meta narrative elements are handled in your game, but if that's something you appreciate, I think Alan Wake has a lot of kind of valuable a valuable take on it. And I quite appreciate it. But yeah, video games. Let's talk about the beginning of our journey there for you, Max. What's an early kind of formative gaming memory for you? Where did that relationship begin?
Yeah, we had a Super Nintendo in the house. It's, probably my dad bought it or something. And I remember like we had a copy of Final Fantasy IV, which was called Final Fantasy II. And I remember playing this game, and I remember it's such a surreal experience. Because have you ever played this game, like the original Super Nintendo version?
I had a port on the PlayStation 1 that came with Chrono Trigger. So I played it with these really, really oddly long loading times for SNES game. But yeah.
Yeah, I think even that translation might have been different than the Super Nintendo one, because the Super Nintendo one, they had so much less space to like put the actual words. Like they couldn't fit it all in the game. So the script is very, very strange. It's written in this very strange, like surreal way that it doesn't make sense. It's like they're trying to, it's also translated, I think, by a non-native English speaker. So that
I
doesn't,
love it. So just different layers of translation.
yeah, there's so many different, like it's the text doesn't, it's very hard to understand what they're saying, but it's good in a surreal way. And I remember just playing that and I was just thinking like, what is going on? I really had that made that's always a big memory for me. Also because the game itself is so I don't know, it's like Final Fantasy IV, it's a classic in itself. So that made a huge impact on me. Also that was in the middle of the Pokemon craze. So obviously everyone was like, well, you guys, I don't know, you guys thinking I'm old now, I don't know, but
no, not at all.
But yeah, so those were two big games for me. I remember growing up.
Okay, yeah, right on. So with RPGs, I mean, that's such like a high kind of bar of quality to be introduced to the genre through. I think with that, what elements of the genre resonated with you? Was it the music? Not just like how the storytelling was kind of, that surreal way you mentioned. Were there other parts of it that really clicked with you, or things that you didn't enjoy actually?
You seem like maybe you're the same way a little bit, but I'm always the story and the worldview is always the most interesting thing to me when I play games. I'm so into that, and luckily around then was when a lot of great games like that were coming out, whether when I was little, like Super Nintendo or like the PS2, and
that's like the peak for some people.
Yeah, I mean that was the peak for me probably. And that was so interesting. I think it might be because as a kid growing up in like let's say the mid 2000s, you might not get access to other culture. Like, how are you going to get access to other cultures? You're in the US, you're just growing up, random kid in the 2000s. How are you going to get access to other cultures? But video games was actually one way that you could get access to Japanese culture, which is like very different, in some ways it's very different than Western culture. And it's just interesting to get that different worldview. And I think that's maybe what drew me in a lot to games as a kid. I don't know. What about you guys?
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
I love that.
It's the same for me. Well, as soon as I first played what was my first JRPG? I think it was a Final Fantasy VII at a friend's house. I was like, oh, I guess I just love Japan now. I guess I'm gonna curse every day I wasn't born in Japan. And that just never really went away. It just kind of turned into the show. But yeah, no, JRPGs definitely have irreparably damaged my life or shaped it into what it is now.
Yeah. Final Fantasy VII is definitely one of the like touchstone gaming memories for me. I think growing up, I grew up with siblings, so I was always like the younger brother watching my older brother play. So you could experience.
Oh, that was you. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. But I think the nice thing about RPGs is like even in a passive sort of way of experiencing it, you're still getting the good stuff. You're getting the story, and you're experiencing the world and the music and everything there, even if you're not, pushing the buttons. So yeah, definitely understand how that genre could resonate with you growing up. Very cool. And then kind of going off of something you said earlier, we mentioned like the PS2, the mid 2000s
Yeah.
era. So you mentioned that kind of being like the peak for your personal kind of preferences with game design, yeah?
I think
Or
so. I mean, people don't go around collecting, isn't that like the games everyone wants to collect? Like I would say the PS1 is also huge, you know.
totally.
But I don't know, doesn't everyone just, isn't that like given at this point that that was like the best time? I don't know. Maybe
I
other
think
people just,
I agree with you. I think the sentiment that is widely shared is like the user experience of that era beats everything today, right? There was such a simplicity to picking up a game and being able to play it and having a content complete experience. You know, I think there wasn't as much money grubbing involved at the time, and I think that leads to the kind of romanticization of the era. But I don't think it's a horrible time for games now. I think what's suffering is the AAA kind of big budget experiences. I
So
think
hopefully that'll tank soon and be
I
over
do feel
with.
we're on the edge of an implosion. But I think the other side of it in today's age is projects like yours, projects like Starstruck, you know, that can be inspired by a different era, kind of
Yes.
try to bring those influences and aspirations to today's audiences. So I think that's very cool. Nick, you got any questions about the past?
The past. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. When you said SNES and you didn't say Earthbound, I was a little bit surprised. I do feel a little foolish wearing the sweater now, but that's fine.
no, no. I mean, obviously I had that too. I played that game a lot. Very into the fan community of that game. Made a lot of contributions there, but yeah, obviously that's a classic as well.
And from the PS2 era, what are some favorite kind of titles that you think kind of were the best of the that best represented that mindset back then?
Yeah, can you believe we had the PS2 era? You would just like go to the store and just like, I don't even know what this is. You just pick up like Shadow of the Colossus and you just start playing. You're like,
Yeah.
when
Like,
does that happen anymore?
yeah,
But we just had games and games like that coming out like over and over and over. And so yeah, I'd say Shadow of the Colossus, Katamari. Can you just imagine? I was just growing up and just playing these games, and just these classics just like coming down the conveyor belt
mm-hmm.
and
I
We
know.
were
um,
very lucky. We were
Literally
very lucky in
falling
that
into your
regard.
lap.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, exactly. And I think Katamari, that game was like $20
It was
or
nothing.
something.
All right, people are
Yeah,
like, oh, what a quirky little nothing
Yeah.
experience.
yeah.
Mm.
Um, those were two PS2 games. What else? Oh, I also the game. I mean, you play the game. Tulip. That's an incredible
Mm.
game. Um, like just the sense of culture behind that. The sense. Have you guys played this game? You know what I'm talking about?
No, the only love
Which one?
game I played is a Moon.
Mm.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's also a classic. That kind of has a similar sense of culture behind it. And I love that a lot. Yeah. So you could probably get a sense of my taste from that.
Okay, yeah, games as
Yes.
cultural ambassadors. No, totally.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. I love that. That's such
Turn
a
the genre on its
great way
head,
to
that kind of
engage with
thing.
them. Yeah, moving forward. And I think thinking about that era and thinking about your game, video game OSTs. You know, what are some of your favorites, and how do you think those being your favorites influenced the musical kind of decisions that were made for your game? And
Yeah.
I do have some more questions about the process, but we'll get to that.
Um,
So,
well, I would say that, Andrew made a lot of the decisions about the music because he was the composer for the game. And,
mm-hmm.
I, uh, at some points I was probably giving too much direction and everything, but
Yeah, of course.
as time went on, I tried to learn, let him do what he needs to do. He's the musical
Course,
master.
yeah.
But for me, I tell me what you guys think about this. I feel like music is so important to games. I would say that um, graphics, what I've noticed is that graphics bring people into the game. That gets you attracted to it initially. And then
Mm-hmm.
the story and the gameplay is what keeps you there and what keeps you going through the whole thing. And then the music is what stays with you actually.
Yes,
Yeah. So the
absolutely.
music, the music is like maybe the most important part. Um, and at least if you're talking about like a story-based game, I actually think a lot of games, they are, tell me what, this is going to be a hot take maybe. I think a lot of games aren't actually fun.
No, that's
Okay.
correct.
I don't think that's a
And
hot take at all. Yeah.
no, but they are fun, but they're only fun because of the music. and the music is telling
Mm.
you, wow, this is fast paced, this is adventurous,
Okay,
this is,
yes,
and
yes, I
it
see
because
what you're saying there.
try playing like a racing game with the music off, okay? Like you're just gonna immediately be like, this is boring, like that's my hot take, that like a lot of games aren't even really what they are trying to be. It's actually the music that is like pulling
I
all the
think,
weight.
yeah, no,
Um,
I agree with you completely. Yeah, music lends so much energy to a scene, and I think it's really easy to feel like a disconnect or a discrepancy when the music does not match. Like if a game is trying too hard to oversell this bombastic, epic adventure you're on, it's like, well, this is too much, and the music doesn't need to be doing that. And it's utilizing it ineffectively. So,
Seriously, go like just imagine F-Zero, or yeah, just imagine F-Zero with the music muted. Like
Oh yeah.
you'd be thinking like this is garbage. No, not really. You wouldn't say that, but you'd be like, this is
but
like
it's
not what
missing
it.
something.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, I used to play like fighting games in the darker days of my life, the training mode with no music on. And, I would say that was the most depressed I've been in my entire life, was that period.
Personal low.
yeah,
Yeah. Just like I need no distraction, just complete focus. It's like, oh, I
That's
want to
incredible.
die now.
yeah. That sounds tough. Are you doing
It's,
better since then?
oh yeah, this is a long
Oh
time
yeah.
ago.
Okay, all right,
Nick's
that's good to
Nick's
hear.
This
on the
is
up and up. Certainly.
yeah, now I leave the music on. I say it's good actually.
Yeah. Yeah, you
um,
know what? Actually, one of my favorite soundtracks is actually, you mentioned Moon before. That soundtrack is amazing. Just like I think I looked into it before. I think they basically just had like a lot of friends in like the weird Japanese like independent music community or something, and they just like got them all to like
nice.
make
Yeah.
music for the
Yeah,
game.
all the bonus CDs. It was crazy listening to those because I was like, when does this ever show up? This crazy like electronic drum and bass track, and it was just a little extra for you. You could never find or play.
That's right.
And it was just a really nice little added thing to enjoy. I mean, everything about the game is so uncommon, so like anti how you're supposed to go about developing a game, which I guess is the whole point of the remix RPG thing. But that's what I like is the secrets and the adventure and the sense of discovery. I feel like it really is what props it up after all this time.
Yeah, I think so. I think the music, without the music, like you would just be wandering around and be like, what am I doing here? Like you got to be listening. The music really pulls it forward a lot. But yeah, also the exploration, everything. It's a very interesting, it's a one of a kind game. It's a classic. I actually met Kenichi Nishi in Japan, like in
Oh, very
just a
cool.
few months ago in July. He was a very
Oh
nice
wow.
guy. Yeah,
Right
very,
on.
very nice guy.
Wow,
He's
for
he's making a new game. You guys saw that, right?
yeah, the stray animals, right?
No, 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 no.
No, it's
That's Yoshiro Kimura. And that's Stray Children.
right.
But Kenichi Nishi, he's the one, who came up, he's the creator of the Chibi Robo series. So he's
Like a
making a new,
spiritual successor, right?
yeah, he's making a spiritual successor to the Chibi
Yeah.
Robo games now. And the Kickstarter was successfully funded. So, we have that to look forward to.
That is exciting. You ever play that
Yeah.
one, Nick Chibi Robo?
I somehow it totally passed me by because when it came out, that's when I was like, I want games with a lot of lights and sound and a lot going on. So the thought of cleaning a room was like, I don't even do that in real life. I don't want to
Yeah.
do that on a small scale.
Yeah, true.
And I'm a
No,
little bit older and wiser now.
Now you know to clean your room.
Yeah, now I know that
Exactly.
if you leave the dishes alone, then the mold sets in.
The mold. There you go.
Exactly.
Very cool. Okay. Well, this conversation really has kind of given me a better idea of your taste and what has kind of influenced your art. On that token, when did the shift change from playing games to wanting to develop them? At an early
Um,
age, did you figure that out, or was that something that you figured out like after beginning the path to something else and realizing like, no, I should be making games?
so my professional training, you could say, is being a software engineer.
Okay.
And what I've noticed is that most software, oh, not maybe most, but it could be most, but a significant amount, very large amount of software engineers, they started learning programming because they wanted to make a video game. Even
Mm.
people who have nothing to do with video games, they're like, yeah, I started learning it as, when I was little because I wanted to make video games. I think that's actually how a lot of people even just learn programming, and I was one of those people.
Okay.
And then at some point that stayed with me, and at some point the opportunity came up to really, actually do that. And yeah, that's pretty much how it was. I think a lot of people have that same feeling, right? They want to make a video game, so it's not that strange.
Yeah, it's a
Yes.
pretty shared sentiment amongst
Yeah.
developers we've spoken to at this point. Before this game, were there many other projects you had begun to develop or had worked on?
This is one of the things where I'm not sure if I should talk about it or not. What do you guys
Oh,
think? Should
okay.
I talk about it or not talk about it?
Is it interesting or is it
If
not
if
interesting?
It's
it's a
somewhat
headache, we don't need to.
no, it's somewhat interesting, but I don't know. It's not entirely how should I say, by the books.
That's fine.
So
Yeah,
I say go for it. I
unconventional
say
stories. Yeah,
go all out, lay it all out on the table.
hmm
no, it's nothing serious. So I made the main modding tool that people use for Earthbound. So,
Oh,
people, yeah, so I made that.
that
And
was you.
that was me. Uh, I mean, there's an older one, but I don't, I contributed some to that one, but there's the one people use nowadays, and
hmm
I made
That's
that one.
the successor to the PK hack, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Wow, I didn't know I was speaking with a royalty.
No, not really. Other people
Kudos to
sort
you.
I haven't worked on the project in a while. Other people have been maintaining it, but not that it hasn't really changed that much since then. But yeah, so that's what I did in the past. And I even helped out a little bit on the Legends of Localization Earthbound book. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah,
I actually I did a lot of the technical work on that, like figuring out, what actual bits and bytes were changed between the games. I even helped out with that a little bit, though I guess that's not so old, right? That's kind of recent. But yeah, that's probably the biggest other gaming project I've done in the past.
wow. So you found the naked nest sprite.
No, that was way before that was way before me. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
No, that's incredible. You thought that wouldn't be interesting? Or yeah, your mind?
I don't
That's
know.
amazing to me at least. I would say, if the world doesn't find that interesting, there's something wrong with the world at large.
Mm.
Well, I think we already know there's something wrong with the world at large. So I mean that.
That's right. That's right. They put us in the asylum. We're the sane ones.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Uh, but yeah, this is my first real game project.
Okay.
So yeah.
All right. Well, I think with that, we can kind of move on to, yes, Starstruck. Unless you have any burning questions about the journey that led us here.
I do later because I feel like I'll get into the spoiler territory. So I want to kind of put a little timestamp there because I do want people to enjoy the game and play it
hmm
without knowing anything about it as a fully blank experience. Because I think it is worthwhile for everyone listening. All of you listening now should stop listening after the
Mm.
next portion and play the entire game, I would say.
Yes. And
So
for those that aren't dropping the episode right now, Max, if you were to pitch the game, how would you describe it to someone in so many words?
Starstruck, it's a rhythm adventure game where you play guitar and you also destroy the world as a giant hand. The game takes place from multiple different perspectives in this miniature diorama world. So you can play as the two children in this world, Edwin and Dawn, who have these very dramatic stories involving their personal lives and their music and the world around them and what's happening to the world around them. And then sometimes, and you go around, you play music as them. That's the rhythm gameplay. But sometimes they'll get stuck. And then when they're stuck, you need to come in as a giant hand and then actually enter the diorama world with your giant hand and clear the path for them or do whatever. And that's sort of like people compare that gameplay to Katamari. It's like a totally different gameplay. So you're exploring this one little miniature diorama world from these multiple different perspectives, all to move the story forward for all three characters. So that's the game.
Yeah, right on. If you haven't seen it in motion, viewers and listeners, it is
Yeah,
an
just
absolute
trust me.
delight
Just
to
play
look
it.
at.
Just play it. Just play it.
it's a lot
Yeah,
of fun.
there's a demo out on Steam right now.
Yes, there is. I just updated the demo maybe like a week ago or something. So
Oh,
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah, it's perfect time to go play it.
Okay.
And the
Oh,
progress continues to the main game if you play the demo too.
oh, we love that. Okay, Nick, do you want to kick off questions here, or shall I?
Let's see. Well, so yeah, Starstruck itself. What was the genesis of Starstruck? What made you decide on the story, the ideas, the characters, everything about it? What did it kind of take shape as initially? Because I understand it was a prologue before in 2000. or no, 2020,
Whoa.
but
25-year-old project.
but as far as that, you've been working on this for quite a long time, correct?
Yeah. So the core of the idea for the game was to have, like I just said, you have one world that you're exploring from multiple different perspectives. And the whole idea of that was that to build up that worldview, really flesh it out from doing that by going through the same areas as different characters and doing different things as different characters. That was one of the main core ideas. And that idea is not a new idea. That's not an idea I invented, that's an idea that actually you saw in a lot of older games. You saw that the easiest example is Sonic Adventure, where you're
Yeah.
where you have this one world and you're going into different characters and all the stories are actually taking place at the same time. And at one point, like I think like Sonic and Tails get knocked out and you can walk by them as like Knuckles or something when you see them.
Yeah.
And but a lot of games did this. I mean, Romancing Saga, the near Automata has kind of brought it back, where because near Automata, like it took this idea from the past and it kind of has brought it back, and now you see more games like bringing it back too because of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the core idea I wanted to do, because I think that's something interesting you can do in video games. You don't really do that in a movie where you have this one. You're not just focused on. In a movie is like time oriented, right? You're always moving forward in time. But a game, it could be space oriented, where you're always about the same location, right? And the time is not the primary thing. See, in a movie you can move space like very easily. Like you have one shot here, one shot here, you can be in Manhattan and you can be in Tokyo. You can just keep doing this. In a game, that's harder to do because you have to make all these environments, and it's very hard to do. Whereas with film, these environments already exist. You just go there with your camera, right?
Sure, yeah.
But in a game, you can have this one environment, and the medium is kind of trying to tell you to explore different moments in time in that same environment, because that is what you do if you don't have a AAA budget to make every single city in the world. So that was part of the idea behind it. Yeah.
It's very cool. I love the idea of taking advantage of video games, interactive sort of elements, and using that as a storytelling device. How much a character can change the perspective of a world, simply just by being in their shoes. Suddenly, like interacting with the whole world is in a different lens.
I mean, this is basically what all the same basic concept, or the same root idea that the LINKTREE games are all trying to do as well. They're very focused on this one location, and the time is always time is always flowing, but you're always staying in this one location and then seeing the different aspects, the nighttime, the nitty-gritty of this location, the daytime, different characters. And I mean, this people mostly think about Majora's Mask when you say something like this, but it's actually funny. There's another game that I didn't learn about actually until way after I started Starstruck. It was because I saw a streamer play it. It's called Ephemeral Fantasia. Have you ever heard of this PS2 game, Ephemeral Fantasia?
Is that the time travel game?
Yeah, that's the time travel game.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know about this game. It's actually the first JRPG on the PS2, even though nobody even talks about it.
I don't know this one.
I'm not sure if it's in first JRPG in the US or Japan, but in some country, whether US or Japan, it's the first JRPG. I didn't realize this game actually has a lot of similarities with Starstruck, which I didn't know about at first.
That's the cool thing about art. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And you can actually use like the Guitar Freaks, the Guitar Hero controller when you play this game, because it has like a rhythm mini game, and it also is involving like time travel and I don't know why I brought that up, but
interesting.
I was very interested in those types of ways of thinking that you saw more in like the 2000s, which these types of people were thinking about.
Yeah.
Yes, things that are only possible with this medium.
Yeah.
And working within the limitations of, whether it's the budget or technology. I love that. I always appreciate a good centralized location. I think a good recent example of that that really resonated with me and Nick was Disco Elysium. You have like just that one city that's just
It's true.
spending more and more time there and just getting.
We never shut up about it.
Yeah. That's my obligatory Disco Elysium reference for the episode. Let's move on. It's a musical component. These characters are musicians, they're performing. Was that personally, was that an element of your life that you wanted to kind of translate to video games, or is that just a story that you wanted to explore with those characters?
Actually, yeah, I don't play a musical instrument.
Okay, right.
Is that what you've guessed?
That's
I mean,
Yeah, that's
shocking.
what I was asking. Yeah, but
yeah, I don't play any. I wish I did.
mhm.
Actually, when I was the early stages of the game, I was talking about it with Andrew, and he'd be like, "You should really learn a musical instrument. You're making this whole story about music." And I'm like, at the time, I was dealing with some like some like tennis elbow from
Oh, okay,
using
some
the
real shit.
computer.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't think I can learn a musical instrument. I'm dealing with some like muscle issues right now, but he really wanted me to learn. I kind of wish I did though, because then I could play a
Mhm.
musical instrument.
It's
But yeah,
just
I
never
don't
too
have
late.
it. I don't no, it's not. But yeah, I don't play any musical instrument. So I think it was I don't know why I think I went that way because I thought like I didn't want to make like a whole JRPG battle system because I thought that would be like a pain to balance.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, how do you even balance that? I mean, like, there must be some theory
Hmm.
behind it, but I don't think anyone knows that theory outside of Japan.
Yeah.
So it's
We
like, how
talked
do
to
you,
developers, and I'm not sure they
Yeah.
know either. It's just
I
trial and
think
error, trial and error.
yeah,
Yeah.
when we asked Brian, he just said he just kind of figured it out as he went along.
that's not, that doesn't sound, yeah, I didn't want to do that.
Not something you want to do. Yeah, hey, totally
So
fair.
yeah, that I think that's why I looked for rhythm. Everyone can understand rhythm. You press the button when it's time to press the button.
Hmm.
So it seemed like a good way to keep the gameplay interesting, but let myself focus on the story too, and not just focus on, oh, what should the price of the potion be? Should it be
Hmm.
100 or 150?
Yeah.
I don't want to think about that stuff.
Yeah, you're not
Yes.
getting bogged down in traditional encounter design at that
I
point.
mean,
Yeah.
I say this over and over and over, but the worst part of a JRPG, unfortunately, almost every time is the combat because it's just an obstacle to get you to the nice,
Hmm.
juicy bit of story
That
next that
yeah,
you want.
that's the interesting thing about genre conventions, right? Is like they sometimes they're just brought in with the game because oh, it's what the inspiration did, so we're just gonna kind of copy that and do a worse version of it. It's like, well,
Yeah.
doesn't doesn't add anything, you know.
You
I
know,
think that's the huge issue with Souls likes.
people really get on. I remember people were getting on Shigeru Miyamoto's case because like they were I think they were coming up with the new Paper Mario games and he's like, do you even need a battle system? Like, why do you even have the battle system here?
Mm.
And people are like, what are you doing? And I'm like, no, this guy's right. Like, why do you need it?
It's
Mm.
Yeah.
just getting in
So
the way. Yeah.
yeah,
Right now, there's all these videos, 2 hours of Super Paper Mario Apologia. Like, oh, actually,
yeah,
it is actually a pretty good game, even though you don't select attack. You just do it. Sorry
yeah,
about that.
yeah. It goes in phases.
Back to Starstruck. I'm just curious, how early on in the development cycle did you have the support for like the guitar peripherals figured out? Was that something you wanted to do from the start, or was it just kind of coincidentally like, oh, look at like we can actually use these?
No, I didn't have that at the start. I think a lot
Okay.
of people asked for that, and then I just did that.
Oh wow. Okay.
So I mean, I always knew like, oh, that'd be cool, but I did it because yeah, people were asking for it.
Yeah, so you mentioned that you didn't play any musical instruments, but you always had the idea of it being the story about two musicians. But at the same time, did you always have the help of the Allansons from the beginning of the project, or were you trying to compose the music from the beginning on your own? Or how did that come to being?
I was interested in making a game, and I had met Andrew and Brian, and I'd started to become friends with Andrew. We're friends to this day. We've been friends for a very long time. And I said, I'm interested in this, and he really encouraged me. He said, "What, go for it if that's really you really want to do." And then he ended up making the music for it, and Brian ended up making all of the characters and the art and everything. So yeah, they were involved, from the early stages. They actually finished their like art and music like way before the game came out. So
That's kind
so
of
yeah.
nice to just have it ready to go though.
So I know that you said that they already had the music finished because I was looking at the prologue and I noticed that there was an entire vocal track that's not in the final game unless I missed it. Were there any other tracks like that fully sung completed tracks that you had to cut out because they maybe didn't fit the final theme of the game, or they just didn't have a proper place?
No, that's the only one.
That's the only one.
Yeah, and the music did change over the course of the game. Just to, like if I mean anyone can find this out if they watch like really old videos of the demo and then they look at the game now. The music is different. We just decided at some point, why don't we go in a different direction and make things, a little more different. And we decided, some songs fit with that, some songs didn't. We just wanted to see if we could take things a step further in this different direction. So that's why the soundtrack just changed a little bit over time.
Okay.
We were really focused on the quality of this game. We were really focused on that. We really wanted to make it something that is high quality and would not, some games they come out and then you look at them a year later and you're like, what is this? But we wanted this to be something that really would people would feel like, I got something special here.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you succeeded.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Having played through the entire thing, I remember when I first played it, I think I just sat down and pretty much blacked out. And then 6 hours later, I was like, oh, I should probably go to bed. It completely sucked me in. Like the gameplay, the music, the world, the art style, the whole diorama setting. It's something very unique that you guys have created. And I think that it's something really impressive. And anyone who considers themselves a real fan of gaming, someone who really is into actually playing, I guess, good games, not just like an indie freak like us, is really doing themselves a disservice by not trying it out.
I agree. Well said.
We kind of mentioned the size of your team at the top of the episode. It's less than 10 people from what I gather. It's just you.
All right. Well, I'd say the main three people were me and Andrew and Brian.
Mm-hmm.
And there were also, another main person was the animator who I've been working with closely for a while now. And there's a lot of other people who contributed too, but they weren't really on the project the whole time.
Yeah,
some of them were.
Sure.
There was another artist named Adrian. He made a lot of the environments, but how do you define team size? Because I've had people make like one sprite. Are they part of the team? But then there's other people who made. There was Brandon Liu who he made a few songs in the game. So there's a lot of like smaller contributors.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd say the three of us were really the main team.
Okay. Very cool. I guess I was just curious about the experience of sort of leading that through the development cycle.
Yeah, I mean, like so working with Andrew and Brian, these guys are, these guys are artists, these guys are visionaries, I will, I would ask maybe Brian to come up with something for the title screen, or I would say like, I think it should be like a globe, like a toy globe. And he had the idea to put the globe on a pedestal. And I was always curious, like what, and he said it felt right. And I was thinking it does feel right. Why does that feel right? And I thought about it for years, and I eventually realized, oh, that's why it feels right. They have a very deep understanding of how to make things like meaningful and how to take things to the next level. So I had a very easy time working with them, and it's really like I mean, yeah, they were very good to work with. So that was most of my experience working with them. That's what it was like.
It's everything just flowed and gelled. It seems like, yeah, it's very, very cohesive, the three of you together. Because when I first saw the Starstruck, the game itself, I guess in the month of Direct this year, I didn't even know.
Oh, really?
Yeah, beforehand. And I was getting interested in it, and I actually had no idea who the team was beforehand. It's I don't know how to put this. It just feels like something entirely on its own. Like you can see the influences from Earthbound or Katamari. It doesn't feel like a collage. It feels like it's a truly unique experience.
Now, let me ask you something. When you felt that way, did that make you did that make you want to buy the game more? Or did that make you feel like I don't know what I'm buying when I buy this game? How did that make you feel?
I would say that's the main reason I bought it.
Oh, okay. So that actually helped you.
Yeah, that
Okay.
it felt like something, that I hadn't seen before. Because that's kind of,
Yeah.
I feel like that's what I'm always looking for, something that
That is
is
what Nick
new,
is always looking for.
something that
Yeah.
something surprising, something interesting.
Something unique. Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that pushes the medium forward. Right.
That's what I'm looking for too. Now, the traditional wisdom that I hear, that I see other game developers or so-called gurus talk about, is that if the game is something people don't even know what it is, they're going to be less likely to take a chance and spend their hard-earned money on it because they don't know what they're getting. They don't even know what this is.
I think that that's a great way to appeal to maybe lowest common denominator buyers, and it certainly works. Like if you make a game, it's like a one for one copy of Balatro, but you have like dice instead of cards, then yeah, you'll get sales. But
Isn't
no,
that an actual game?
it is, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there is.
Actually, I
I
actually
was playing it actually right
I
before.
got one that's a mahjong version because, anyways. But no, the thing about that is certainly you can make that and you'll sell some stuff to some guys who mistake it for the actual game, kind of like those old like Brazilian fake Pixar movies, Reddit toying and all that. But the most you can hope for, I think, in the future for people remembering, it's like, oh, remember that weird derivative game? No one's gonna be like, oh, you know what was one of my favorite games of all time? Something that really stands out in my mind, something that I think about to this day, was Balatro Dice Edition. No one's ever going to say that. No one's ever going to say that that's something that like truly impacted them. And I guess that's kind of the thing. When people say that you should just kind of follow what you already know people like, that's going against the idea of games being anything with any artistic merit. That's just kind of pursuing games as a product to be sold. And I feel like for me personally, that's not really what I'm looking for when I play games. I'm not just looking for a way to waste my time. I want to feel like I'm, yeah, enjoying it, but I'm also getting something out of it, which I guess may be a little pretentious, but it's just how I feel.
Yeah, I
I
mean
think
it
that just
gets
comes from a love of games.
yeah, definitely. To make Starstruck, I had to really research a lot about Richard Wagner, and I had to read a lot of his writings. And he says some stuff in there. A lot of it is completely crazy and even horrendous, or even horrendous, but some of it he has some points.
Okay.
And he says, was this, I think this was Richard Wagner, it might have been another author, but I think it was something like basically, um, it's funny, he was talking about like cozy art, he was talking about cozy
Mm.
games, and he was
Hmm.
saying that stuff is really there just to keep people to keep people docile and keep
Yes.
people
Mm.
not, it's really, and that's why you look at a lot of these am I getting myself in trouble here? You look at these cozy games,
I'll say it. Yeah.
a lot of them have state funding.
Mm.
And what Wagner said, or I think it was him, he said that these types of art that's meant to keep you docile is a tool of the state, and it's a tool of the state to keep you as a in the matrix, or as a
Yeah.
just
Hmm.
pig on the
Sure,
farm or
sure.
something
Yeah.
like that.
Self-administered sedative.
Yeah, and there's a place for that, but it's crazy that this would be a genre that people would really focus on. To me, I think like aren't we grown-ups? We want to like appreciate the arts and find out what else life is all about and all these things. Yeah, that I reading Wagner, it I that had a side effect on me. That guy is he has a lot of, obviously a lot of his
Yeah.
opinions are horrendous, but being that smart, you get one or two things right, and
Yeah, of course.
yeah. So
And then
yeah,
you can pick and choose which ones you want to follow, which is the nice
Exactly.
thing about it,
Exactly.
yeah,
having
Yeah.
free will.
yeah.
Yeah. This will probably be stupid, but Oswald's not a real person, right? Because I
You
was
know,
playing the
it,
game, I was like, did I never hear about this guy?
no, he's not a real person, but actually I did find out. I was like, I found this and I don't remember the guy's exact name, but apparently there was some composer whose name was Oswald, and he was involved in some kind of plagiarism scandal. So apparently there's like something like that, but no,
Or
it's
some
a
other
fictional character. It
greater
doesn't,
Okay.
coincidence. I
yeah,
see.
I was like, did Hadley have a thing, a citation that I missed or something?
that
Like, am
would
I
have been nuts.
stupid? Yeah. No, so that's great. Richard Wagner is a very integral to the story in a way that those who don't know will never expect.
I I don't know. What did you think? Do you think that worked well, bringing him into the story like that?
I think so. I think it really fits the whole plagiarism and the gray morality of the game, which I think is pretty prevalent, which surprised me. I mean, everything about the game surprised me, which I know I keep saying it over and over. I'm not trying to just be like, wow, genius, but I really was profoundly impressed buy it. The story of the kids, the parallel stories of Wagner, Oswald, and Edwin and Don, I think really flowed well together. And I did like the little asides from Hadley to be like, "Hey, stupid, this was a real person. This was like a real thing." Um, are you making the connections here? And I feel like in that way as well, any viewer can kind of put the pieces together themselves without too much unnecessary thinking, which I know people like. They like to kind of be able to solve a puzzle as long as it's not too hard.
One of the interesting things is people will play the game. Not some people, they'll play the game. They'll be like, this is a lot darker than I was expecting. I'm like,
Yes.
and I'm like, but I understand that, but also like, did you watch the trailer? Like, did you like the trailer gets into some really dark stuff, but I don't know. I guess maybe some people they think, oh, are they really going there? And then they play the game, they're like, oh, okay, it's really going there.
Yes, I would say so. All
I
the
love that.
mold fantasies in particular, which I guess I'll get to after the spoiler mark. Which I don't know. Are we at that point
Yeah,
yet? Rapid fire. How do you feel about AAA? Do you love it or hate it?
AAA, I don't even the only AAA games I play are maybe Nintendo and Square Enix. So
Mhm.
those I like those. I mean that's all I can say.
That's fair. That's fair. We don't have to get into it.
What do you think about the current state of gaming? Hellscape or hopeful?
Yes.
I think that I find it hard to find games that I'm interested in. I find it harder than it was
Yeah.
before. And I think it's up to the players at this point. Players, if people want what's currently there, they should keep buying it. If people want something new, they should look for the things that are new and buy those. And at this,
Exactly.
yeah, it's really up to the players at this point if for them to decide where they want things to go.
Yeah, hold yourselves accountable, people.
Yeah. Listeners,
You don't
follow
have to
your
buy
heart.
everything.
Listen to what your heart says, but at the same time, listen to everything we say because we really know what's best. Listen to
As
the games
well,
we
yes,
tell you to
of
play.
course. Mm-hmm.
Because what if you make a wrong decision? What's worse than that?
Okay, and then with Starstruck, and we've kind of touched upon the values and what you have instilled into the game. But what would you like players to walk away with? At the end of the day, songs stuck in their head, memories of a good story, or just like, what do you think? What would you most
Um,
like for them to walk away with?
Get rich quick from plagiarizing.
no. Um, I think that one of the things I was hoping the game could offer people is, there's this very uncomfortable truth to reality, which is that not everyone can be at the top. Um, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and this is some truth that really people don't want to talk about. I mean, you go to school and your teacher would tell you everyone is equal. We should all, be equal and everything. And then you finish your English lesson or history lesson, whatever. Then you go over to your science class and the teacher says, by the way life came into existence is survival of the fittest.
Yeah.
And basically the reason we exist is because it's built on the deaths of all the losers.
Mhm.
And so, and so how do we bring those things together? Because the modern worldview is based on equality, but also we have this other thing going on. So how do we all bring that together?
Mm-hmm.
And I think this leads to a lot of problems and cognitive dissonance in people's minds because we both know we're aware of all these things, but they're so what do we do? And we see the gap between the top and the bottom increasing every year, faster and faster. So this problem is not going away. And I think, and a lot of the game I focused on the examination of this question. And so I hope people play it, they can get some benefit from that.
Yeah. Wow. A very insightful answer. Thank you. I like that. Yeah, that we're talking about Starstruck, Hands of Time, available on Steam right now. Nick, I think we're getting into your self-indulgent spoiler questions as you call
That's
them.
right.
So here it is, folks. Let's get into it.
Here's a spoiler mark. I guess first off, with the frogs, did they always have such a important role in the story? I know with the whole frog ending, the fact that there even is an entire extra ending that you have to literally just go off to the side to even see it exist, and it's such a major different thing. Was that always planned, or was the original, I guess, much bleaker ending the initial only one?
No, that was always planned. That was planned from a very early point. I knew that would be absolutely essential, and it had to be the frog. It had to be done away. So that I would say that's, that's where a lot of the story comes together, I think. So yeah, that was definitely always planned.
Okay. And then the sense of player agency in that. With the frogs, what exactly do the frogs represent? I guess is what I'm asking. Because to get to the frog, everything regarding the frog story, you have to go out of your way to choose to assist them, to go throughout them, you have to seek them out, right? And at the end, to find the frog, you have to listen for him, go to the side, talk to him, and change Edwin's ending, change the finality of it, and change the world. It's all based on choice. So I guess in that sense, why frogs?
Yeah, so throughout the game, there's this focus in the story on the center versus in the game I use the opposite center. I use the word corner a lot. So there's the center versus the edge or the corner, right? That's the main focus of the story. Edwin's always saying, I want to be at the center. I want to be at the center. Lots of views. If you really want to understand the game, that's like a very important concept in the story that to me when creating it. So um, a frog is a creature, is something that exists between the land and the water. So the frog does not exist at the center. The frog exists on the edge. Okay. And Edwin also exists not at the center. He exists not at the edge. And so that's why these characters are very related. And you see in the game that sometimes the frog, there's a comparison made between Edwin and frogs, and that's
Mhm.
why. And so um, because of that, because of that, the frog, because of the status of the frog as being outside the center, the frog is also the only one, not the only one of the only characters who can actually access Edwin when Edwin is out, is like totally lost because the
Mhm.
frog is the only one who can go back. Not the only one. The frog is one of the characters that can go back and forth between the center and the outside because it exists on that edge. Is this making sense? Do you understand?
It is. And I mean, I'm connecting it now, like the lily pad in the center of the water, the fact that only Edwin can speak to the frogs. I mean, I think the frog outright says that Edwin has a bit of frog in him. And
Yeah.
yeah, the corner especially, because I know when you get all the trash cans, that's when you're able to allow Don to access the corner literally, right?
Yeah, so that's one part of the corner thing. The other part of the corner, there's many parts in the game where I really try to push that symbolism as far as I can. I think like, you could think about Dawn's living room. The place where Edwin's guitar, it was in the corner. Meanwhile, her piano is more in the center of the shot. And, Edwin talks about there's a dusty acoustic guitar abandoned in the corner. Edwin is the one Dawn is the one who's the center of the attention. Edwin is uh rejected and forgotten and in the corner. And so what is the solution to that, right? And that was the main focus in the story for me.
As a storyteller, how do you feel you achieve like the right, how do I put it? Like when you're trying to get a message across, how do you tread that line without being too overbearing, or you feel like you're beating someone over the head with a message? Do you think there's an ideal way to do that, and do you think you've achieved it through the game?
I don't know. You can ask Nick. Maybe it was too overbearing. I have no idea if it was too overbearing or not. I mean, some people say it is, some people say it isn't. So I don't know.
Okay.
I wouldn't say so. I would say it's a very enjoyable. I think that to be too overbearing would be if at the end of the game it was like, oh, and by the way, it's wrong to steal. If your friend is good at music, don't steal it because that's bad. And then Edwin would say, oh, yeah, I would say that would be bad. I would say that would be overbearing. And I feel like that, in a much less obnoxious way is how a lot of stories kind of have to proceed. Audiences, I feel like very cut and dry, very exact endings and very exact moralistic messages.
Yeah.
And I think that with this game as well, of the issue of plagiarism, the issue of trying to escape being, as you said, someone in the corner. Edwin, I don't feel feels as though they are in the wrong for trying to escape their situation. They feel as though they're owed this.
Mm.
And certainly, Oswald's infection, the mold's infection that's hold over him, isn't so much creating these feelings as it is taking those existing feelings and kind of bringing them to the forefront, making it so that it's all he can think about. It's like all consuming. And I think that that is a good way. I just feel like it was a good way to tell the story. It wasn't so cut and dry, so
Yeah.
exact.
No, you the way you're describing it, I mean, you have nuance for both sides of an issue. And I think that is kind of getting to the core of how you do it well, is that you don't condescend to the audience and you allow them to make their own conclusions or come to their own conclusions.
Believe it or not, my goal was, I was actually really trying not to push a message. Well, I think
I understand that.
To some people it comes across that way, but my goal was to show how the world works. And it's more like actually like a science textbook that would say like, here's what gravity is, here's how all these things, here's how the formula works. That was my goal with the story. It actually, I think people maybe come in with the assumption that I'm trying to push a message, but that wasn't my intention actually.
Nice.
Yeah.
Right on. Okay.
So that's my answer. Like, how do you avoid pushing message? I don't think you should. I think you should focus on how this world works and how these different realities connect with each other.
Tell the story.
Exactly. It becomes a matter of showing and not telling.
I suppose in that way, yes, the message is just sort of what you yourself, the player, or me, as I just said, got from it, rather than something that you were expressly trying to convey. And going into that with the third act, the final act, where the game becomes radically different, the nightmare of Edwin's dreams becomes the world. Was that always the plan? Sort of it kind of reminded me of Xenogears, the diagrams, the models, the very exact, as you're saying, science textbook like juxtaposition of all these different signs and how they evolve throughout time, and all the instances of, like, say, Operation Paperclip, and all these atrocities, how the cyclical nature of everything. Was that always the plan, to have that final hallway, that final gallery?
Yeah, there were many things in there inspired by different things in my life that I've seen, like the place in the game in the code I call it the Time Museum. That's where you go and you see the different, like the pyramids and stuff like that. That was inspired by a visit to to a special exhibit they had at the Met Museum in New York City when they're doing it. This exhibit was called About Time, and it was a museum about fashion. It was an exhibit about fashion changing throughout time. And I felt whatever kind of like feeling you had when you're playing the game there. And that point, I had that feeling like 100 times when I was in that time exhibit. It was very intense. And so, but what were my plans for the end of the game? Yeah, I think you see at the beginning of the game, there's this it shows you the photorealistic world of 30XX and then the more game looking world of 20XX. And yeah, my intention was always at the end, these need to come together. And once I got to that point, I tried to push it as far as I could. My plan was to do that because obviously I have to get the miniature models made. That's not something I could do at the last minute. So yeah, that took a lot of planning. And I hope for some people that was a highlight of the game because I think that's what I wanted.
When you say fashion for a second, I thought for sure you're going to say fascism.
No, 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 no. It was about like dresses and which I don't really have an interest in, but it was a very intense exhibit. They were playing like some music and they had this like giant ticking clock in the center of the room, like over like one of those grandfather clock things. And there's like the sound of water dripping and you go around. It was like a maze there was this like it was like a mirror maze but with dresses everywhere. It was a very intense experience.
That sounds very cool.
Sounds surreal.
I didn't realize how much of like a sensory.
Another thing that really had a huge effect on me for the end of the game was also in New York City. I went to a museum exhibit about the artist Jean Dubuffet. Do you know who I'm talking about?
I do not.
He's a French. How do I even say it? He does sculpture, but he also did many other forms of art, and he made these like sculpture parks, these enormous sculptures, and it feels when you're there. Now I read some of his writing, so I kind of know what he's going for. He was trying to make like a form of art or world that was totally alien to our world. And so they had an exhibit for his art, and I went in there, and they had the giant sculptures, that you walk around. It feels like you're in like an alien planet, and it felt beautiful in a way, but also feels very lonely and very scary. And I imagine that's, when I listen to the astronauts talk about being on the moon, it felt a little similar to what they were talking about. And so I found the
Interesting.
feeling of seeing this artist's work really, that had a big effect on me for what I was trying to do with the ending.
Yeah, I could definitely see that in Oswald's idealized world at the end.
Yeah.
Uh, the horror elements, especially there, were very strong, which I enjoyed a lot. The cuckoo clocks coming out,
It's very,
and everyone twisted into those miniatures. I really
Yeah,
like that.
that's great.
yeah, very interesting. I wouldn't have expected these elements would be in the game just from the immediate kind of impressions you get.
Did I
And
sell you on it yet?
you have, oh, you
Okay.
sold me like
All right,
30
great.
minutes ago, man. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, for you Full Metal Alchemist fans, the Ouroboros is in it, so check that out.
It
These
is.
sculptures by Jean Dubuffet, I can see like the sort of eeriness, that you
It
feel when
is
looking
it
at
is
them.
so eerie walking around a
Yeah.
giant. There's actually a bigger one in France. I hope if I ever get to go to France someday, I get to see it because it was so weird being around those things.
Yeah.
And these are all life size.
So cool.
Not life size. They're gigantic.
They're
They're
like
Oh
like
my
big,
God.
yeah, yeah. Just
they're
walking
like
around.
it's like walking around Stonehenge. It's crazy.
I think I'll avoid it. That sounds horrifying to me,
It is.
honestly.
It was horrifying.
But that's so cool. That's so cool that you actually reacting that way to art and getting that response. We love to see it,
Yeah.
and we love to see its influence kind of affect what you create. I think that's just the best part of all of this. Okay, shall we move on to community Q&A, or do you have any more questions regarding the game, Nick?
Those were my main questions, I guess. One last one is, I suppose, the dynamic between the captain and the kids. So playing as a captain, I suppose, feels kind of like an inverse Katamari Damacy. But then when I start thinking about it, I guess Katamari already is doing exactly that. You are destroying the world to create something. So it really is it's the same as Katamari Damacy in that way, having to break down the world to progress and create something new. The difference between that and the kids section, Dawn's tracks, Dawn's songs, she's the main creative, but in reality, they were all given to her by Oswald, correct? Or the seed was planted by Oswald.
Yeah. So what that's you've that's awesome to hear you talk about that because that was one of the ideas. Yeah. Because you have this story where so many characters are artists, um, including the captain. The captain is into music too. The captain likes to play guitar, but then you have all these characters are artists, and then this one character who's the destroyer.
Yes.
And that was um that was definitely part of my intention that be the opposite there, because part of the idea with the moon landing in the story is the moon landing, you could see that as a achievement of creation and technology, and that was or achievement of order, right? And that's a modern, you could say the modern world. And that was from going from Earth to the moon, right? Going from Earth to the moon.
Right.
And then the captain in the story is the opposite of it. The captain is the first person to go from the moon to Earth, okay? Because he went back in time and no one else went to the moon to the earth before that. So he's the first person, he or she is the first person to go from the moon to earth. And so therefore the captain is an opposite of that creation, that technology, all those things. That the captain is the opposite of Apollo 11. And so they are going to be destroying things. They're going to be destroying statues, destroying art, at the end of the game, destroying history, so that was definitely one of the, yeah, something that I was trying to do with that.
I'm glad that you were able to understand my
Yeah.
gibberish,
No,
frankly.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's all the self-indulgent questions I
Yeah,
had. Thank you
I
for
got
answering.
yes, yes, thank you. I got a few more questions regarding the game and its future. Last one really about the game. I was looking at the Steam page and I saw there's a lot of accessibility options, which I always appreciate within games. I think it's important that you know people should be allowed to experience them, even if they're not, you know, in a state in which they can experience them as other players can. With that in mind, what's the process of creating those accessibility options? Like, what's the mindset you go through there? Is it just like, oh, I'm just going to make it as easy as possible, just so players can experience the narrative?
Yeah, pretty much. Like I want to, basically I made the rhythm gameplay, some people found it difficult and they still want to experience the story. And I thought, you know what, that makes a lot of sense. You should just be able to skip the rhythm gameplay if you want it to. Basically, there's a mode in the game called autoplay where the rhythm gameplay will play itself. And so that was one of the main options that lets people play the game more. And yeah, that was added because some people asked for that. And then actually after I added that, I realized, wait, this makes the game, testing the game a whole lot easier. So I'm glad I added this.
Very cool. Interesting.
And also there's 4 difficulty modes. Originally there were 2, but yeah, I found that it was all about reacting to what I heard from people who played the demo. And yeah, that's why we decided to go with 4 difficulty levels and also autoplay. So really anyone should be able to play the game, whether you're a super rhythm game person, or you're like somewhere in the middle, you kind of like rhythm games, or you're someone who's just like, I have no rhythm at all. All those types of people can play the game.
Very cool. Very cool. And then looking towards the future for Starstruck, you mentioned updating the demo somewhat recently. Are you planning on adding any updates to the main game in the coming year or in the coming months? And are you willing to discuss any of those?
Yeah. So I actually already have like 2 new songs I'm gonna add in as like bonus songs. There's a mode in the game called free play where you can play like extra songs that aren't really part of the story. So over time, I'll keep adding more songs into there. Just, to give some little treats to the players. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. I was wondering because when I saw the 30XX tab and there was just the one track, I was a little confused. I was like, huh, okay. So that's great to hear. Can you discuss what those songs will be at all, or is that secret?
Well, so because all of the charts, charts are like, it's the files that say what buttons you'll press during the gameplay. So
Right.
all of those had to be remade from the demo because like all the difficulty levels were rebalanced. So the first thing that we'll focus on is re-adding in all the old bonus songs with the new charting style. So that's, so the next song I'm going to update is going to be one of those songs that was a bonus song in the demo. I think it was like the Halloween bonus song. I'm going to add that in. And so the first step will be adding those, updating those bonus songs and adding them in. And then after that, uh, we also have some more like brand new bonus songs that we'll be adding in. So yeah, that's the plan.
All right.
Very cool. And not to, jump the gun or look too far ahead into the future, but have you given any thought beyond Starstruck? Are there any ideas or stories in your drawers, in your head, that you are looking to explore in the future?
Yeah. I'm working on a prototype right now, and with the collaboration of a lot of very talented and awesome people. And since starting Starstruck, my interests have gone a lot towards film. So the idea of this is it's an interactive film, and it's based on a lot of different books I've read, nonfiction books, based on a lot of the ideas that I've found in them. It's also based a lot of my travels. Over the past years, I've traveled to a lot of different countries.
I was getting the impression
to
of that,
China
yeah.
twice. I've been to Mexico.
Very
Yeah,
cool.
so you could see some of that in Starstruck, but I found those cultures very, very interesting, especially going to all the museums, like the National Museum of Anthropology in Mexico City, biggest museum, one of the biggest museums it's got to be. And so for the next project, we'll bring in a lot of these ideas together, and I think it'll make a very interesting story.
Have you, I know it's early on, have you decided like a gameplay direction you're looking to take it in, or
FMV perhaps?
aside from it being an interactive movie? But I suppose what that entails.
Obviously it's not going to have real actors. That's not something that is
Okay,
at least for now,
yeah.
it's not within that realm of possibility. So
there goes my shots.
Sorry, yeah. But it'll be 3D, and you could think of it as an interactive movie that I don't know, that's the best way to describe it. It's a new twist on things.
All right, yeah. It's very early on, folks, so I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
But that is very, very exciting to think about. All right. And as we're headed towards the end of today's episode, we'll be closing out with some community Q&A. But thanks again for joining us, Max. This has been a very pleasurable and insightful conversation to have.
Yeah, thank you.
Very cool. All right. So, Nick, would you like me to begin, or shall you take it?
You could take Goons. I think we kind of already addressed his first one.
First question. So, coming in from Goon, he asks, "What music did you listen to for inspiration?"
So one of my favorite bands is Arion. You guys know this band? It's like a prog rock band.
No.
I don't. I'm uncool.
I mean, I don't know if it's been around this band has been around for a while, and it's like this whole huge all like epic story that's sci-fi and personal and dramatic and involves like time travel and stuff. It's spread across all these different albums. And ever since I was a kid, I was really, really like I just felt so immersed in this um sort of like prog rock concept album, epic story. And so that made an impact on me. And maybe
that's fantastic, actually.
Yeah.
That sounds so
Also,
cool.
the music is amazing. I really recommend this band. So that was if someone asked me name a band, I would name that one. Yeah, some of it is. Check it out. It's some really interesting stuff.
Right.
Very cool. There you go, Goon. Now you know. All right, Nick.
Yes, from Buns, that one Buns, we have the question, what is the greatest controller ever made?
Actually, I really like the Nintendo Switch Pro controller. It
Yeah.
feels really good. And because a lot of other controllers, my my arms I still have a little like repetitive strain injury, just a tiny bit. So a lot of other controllers will bother me. But I find I think it's very underrated, the Switch Pro controller. I really like it a lot.
I'd say. I think that's not, an answer I expected.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
What exactly was the moment you all decided to bridge the gap between rhythm game and Katamari?
It was when the town was built. Brian had made the models and the characters and stuff, or the buildings, I should say, the buildings and the streets and the street lights and everything. And when I saw that, I was thinking like, for some reason, I just felt the urge to like knock it all over. Like you see, you're a
That's
kid
beautiful work you made there.
yeah, exactly. Like you see, like if you're a kid, you see. I wasn't this type of kid, but some kids they see like one kid stacks up all the blocks, and the other kid just feels the urge to knock it all over. Right? So in that moment, that's who I was. So that's how I came to that. Yeah.
Oh, the memories.
Oh, you were that kid.
There's some purity there,
I didn't know any better. I was only 16.
All right, coming in from Donnie Q, he asks, "You're at Blockbuster Video on a Friday night. Your mom lets you get one drink, one snack, and one movie. What are you getting?" I'm assuming this is as a child.
I try to call up the White House and warn them about 9/11. I think that would be
I'm back here.
Yeah. Let's see, what am I gonna get? I'm gonna get popcorn. I'm gonna get orange soda, which I don't drink soda anymore, but I used to maybe have a little orange soda. So I get orange soda and a popcorn. And I'm gonna get Pokemon the movie 2000.
Wow. Nice. Yeah.
Classic.
Lugia.
Yeah. I gotta relive that. Yeah. I gotta see what happens, with the song and everything, So yeah, that would be my pick.
That's great.
All right.
I recently saw just tangentially related. I recently saw an Roger Ebert's review of the Pokemon movie.
Oh, really?
Just like how out of his depth he was. He's like, listen, sometimes you get thrown a curveball. I just don't know how to analyze this.
What is
I tried.
It's like, what am I looking at here? He didn't even know what was going on.
Yeah, he's like, I tried playing this card game with a 6-year-old, and I still don't know what's going on. But all right, Pokemon the movie. Next question from Raccoons, Nick.
Yes. So, how did you get the physics interactions to work, and how much real life models went into the game?
So the physics, like that was actually a lot of trial and error because it's a lot of tweaking and had to make things bounce a certain way to make it feel like satisfying that adding the air trails and everything. So a lot of that was like just back and forth tweaking and then actually one of the best ways I found to really balance the game was watching other people play like it on Discord. I would watch them on screen share and then I would just see what they did, and then I would just say, okay, I'm gonna tweak a few things, and I would do it again, and I would just like do that over and over. Um, and yeah, that applied to the physics too. Like how bouncy things were and stuff like that. And what was the other question?
Oh, how much real life
Oh,
modeling went into it, like the clay models or the blocks or anything like that?
I have like several boxes in my closet over here, like about like with the the different models. There's a lot of
Wow.
models. There's like the clay sculptures of the characters. By the way, the clay sculptures of the characters that those were actually made by a Mexican artist, and he also is the same person that made the unofficial Mother 3 clay models, the ones that you see
Oh, yeah.
you see those on every like, oh, Mother 3 is coming out for the virtual, and they use those clay figures. He's the one
Mm.
who made those. And so he actually made the clay figures for Starstruck too. And he also made the clay figures for Mother 4, which, I don't know what's going on with that, but he made those. And
Someday.
yeah. And and then there's all this other stuff like just boxes and stuff. So many miniatures are made for this game, and if you play the game, you'll see, how
That's
many there are.
super cool though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it painful at all, like emotionally having to smash the Edwin model, or was it satisfying?
Should I tell you the secret?
Yes.
We
All right.
love secrets.
I didn't destroy the Edwin model. Okay, so it's I made a imitation one out of like just like normal clay.
Mm.
And then I smashed that. So it looks like I destroyed the actual one, but no, I didn't destroy that. I made a fake version, and then I and then I destroyed that one.
Mhm.
Mm, okay,
And a lot of
genius.
people, actually showed, yeah, I showed the original Edwin model on camera like a while ago, and some people were like, I thought it was destroyed. What's going on? No, I'm glad that was convincing, but no, I didn't actually destroy it.
Take a page out of Troma's book, placing
Oh,
a real kid's head with a watermelon.
oh, yeah.
Last one, favorite love delic slash skip, van pool, or punchline game.
So I think like I gotta separate it into the three directors of Moon. So I would say from Kenichi Nishi, I would say Moon is my favorite game,
Mm.
and then Beyond Moon, um, Yoshiro Kimura. I would say that Tulip is my favorite game by him that I played. So so far I like all the other games too. Maybe Stray Children would be even better. I don't know. And then Taro Kudo, most underrated like game director slash designer person. Like he is a very, very creative guy. He worked on first of all, he was the designer of UFO A Day in the Life, which is a very innovative game that actually, have you ever seen the game? What is it called? What is it? The monkeys? Don't feed the monkeys. Have you ever seen that game?
No, I haven't.
Okay, it's a game where you're watching these people through a surveillance system, and you can switch between the cameras and the people, and you watch them go throughout their days, and you can kind of interfere a little bit, but mostly you're this person watching from the outside. And it's like, well, this is such a creative style game. Actually, I don't know if they were aware of Taro Kudo, but he made a game that was very much like this in 1997, I think, or six or whatever, nine. And um Don't Feed the Monkeys, that's a huge hit, by the way, on Steam. But this, one of the lovely people, he made a game that's very much like that, and he's come up with so many other ideas that are so interesting and so creative. And he's he had a huge role on Super Mario RPG. And if you play Super Mario RPG, one of the highlights is all the little events that happen in the game, like the bird like poking you have to jump, like all those things. I get the sense that he was behind a lot of that because all of his other games, like he's the writer on the new Paper Mario games. He also made Freshly Picked Tingle's Rosie Rupee Land. And I really like his style. It's like whenever he makes a game, he tries to make it like a haunted house where you walk around a haunted house and you find something scary and it's like, wow, and then you go to the next thing, it's scary. It's like, wow. He does that in his games, but it's like everything, instead of being scary, it's funny. So it's like walking around a haunted house full of like funny things, right? And I
Mhm.
Full of
really think that,
gags. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's a very gag based type of guy, so type of
It
designer.
takes skill to do that well, I think.
It's not easy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Not overstate that or understate that.
Um,
Master of the joke scare.
yeah, it's a joke scare. That's a great word. Yeah. So from all those three different people, I really find a lot of enjoyment from the games. Yeah.
It's very interesting. Very interesting. The last thought kind of made me think about the relationship that horror and comedy share, just like the build up and
they do.
the release and the tension of everything.
Evil Dead 2 is the greatest movie ever made for a reason.
Hey, there you go. Another required reference to be made in the episode.
All right,
Coming in last,
yes.
Sheep over. What's more important, narrative or gameplay? You have to answer this definitively. This is going to be on record for the rest of your life. What's more important?
I can remember a lot of games with bad gameplay, but interesting stories. But if a game was a boring story and interesting gameplay, it's still good, but I don't remember it as much.
Mm-hmm.
So, but everyone's different. But that's for me.
Totally.
I think it's if you can have the good story there, then you've really got something special. That's my point of view.
Mm-hmm. It'll motivate players enough to get through the gameplay, even if
I mean, it's just a little bit of depth. Maybe I shouldn't say this, but throughout history, no one has really talked about things like sports or stuff as like an art form. No one's talked about like, checkers as an art form. No one's really talked about how much depth that has as an art form that, touches on the essence of what life is all about, even though I think that's there. But I think that most of the time you see that people do that more with the story. So
yeah. Okay, right on. And what do you think, Nick? What's more important, narrative or gameplay?
Definitely the gameplay. Narrative, who cares about all that crap? I just want to press a button.
Go.
I want to press a button. I want something awesome to happen. That's all I care about.
Dragon Age 2 style.
Yeah. No, I'll put up with anything if I like the story. I mean, I read visual novels, so I can take a lot of punishment.
This gameplay is fire.
Yeah.
Reading the book, I love it. Very good. Very good. Well, that kind of brings us to the end of today's episode. Max, again, thank you for joining us on today's conversation.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. The game
you guys are awesome.
Thank you. The game is out now on Steam, people. Starstruck, Hands of Time. You can wishlist it. You can play the demo. Where can viewers or listeners find you if this is something you'd like them to follow you at?
Definitely go on Steam and wishlist the game there, or just play the demo. That's the best thing to do. And sometimes I post random stuff. I'll post when there's a sale on X, and I also post like, just different things related to the game story, just random things. So the game's account is at Play Starstruck. So that's something you could check out too. But really check out the game. I think you'll like it.
I agree.
There you go. And I'm sold.
Right.
So I will be checking it out.
Mission accomplished. Okay.
And that brings us to the end of today's episode. We'll leave all our links in the description below. Truly a pleasure today, gentlemen. Thank you.
Yes.
Until next time, we've been Video Ditch. Take care of yourselves out there.